Most people believe they understand Google search. You open a browser, type a question, and within fractions of a second, billions of web pages are reduced to a handful of answers. It feels simple, almost generous. A free tool built to organize the world's information and help you find exactly what you need. But that assumption hides one of the most extraordinary business models ever created. Because Google doesn't actually make money by helping you search. In fact, you could use Google thousands of times without paying a single dollar. No subscription, no entrance fee, no charge for every question. Yet the company behind that empty white search box has become one of the most valuable businesses in modern history, generating revenues that dwarf the economies of many nations. So where does the money come from? The answer begins with a subtle shift in perspective. Google is not simply responding to your questions. Every search reveals something about you, your interests, your intentions, your curiosity, sometimes even what you are about to buy before you've fully decided yourself. Those tiny signals don't disappear when you press enter. They become part of an economic system operating quietly beneath every search, matching human intent with businesses willing to pay extraordinary amounts for a single moment of attention. That is why Google was never just a search engine. It became a marketplace where information, data, and commercial intent collide billions of times every day, powering an advertising economy worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And once you understand what is really being bought and sold, you'll never look at that familiar search box the same way again, because the story begins long before Google ever existed. By the late 1990s, the internet was already overflowing with information. New websites appeared every day, covering everything from university research and news to personal blogs and online stores. Finding anything useful had become increasingly difficult, and a growing list of search engines rushed in to solve the problem. Names like AltaVista, Yahoo, Lycos, and Ask Jeeves dominated the early web. Each promised to organize the internet, but most relied on relatively simple methods. If a web page repeated a keyword enough times, it often climbed higher in the rankings. That approach worked when the web was small. As millions of pages flooded online, it became remarkably easy to manipulate. The loudest pages often appeared before the most useful ones. Then two Stanford graduate students approached the problem from an entirely different angle. Instead of asking what words appeared on a page, they asked a more interesting question. What if the internet itself could reveal which pages deserved attention? Their answer became PageRank. Rather than treating every web page equally, PageRank viewed hyperlinks as recommendations. A link from one website to another acted like a vote of confidence. More importantly, not every vote carried the same weight. A recommendation from a respected website mattered far more than one from an obscure page. Suddenly, search results reflected reputation as well as relevance. The difference was dramatic. People found better answers faster, and they noticed. Word spread naturally. More users chose Google because it consistently saved them time, and every search generated fresh information about what people actually wanted. Which results were clicked, which searches were refined, which answers satisfied users immediately. That continuous stream of feedback became an invisible advantage. The more people searched, the more Google learned. The more it learned, the better its results became. Better results attracted even more users, who produced even more data, strengthening the system once again. It wasn't just a better search engine. It was the beginning of a self-reinforcing flywheel where every new user quietly increased the value of the platform for everyone else. And while the world celebrated Google's superior search results, an even more valuable asset was accumulating beneath the surface, one that would transform a technology company into an economic powerhouse unlike anything the internet had seen before. Google has always described its mission in remarkably simple terms: to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. On the surface, that's exactly what billions of people experience every day. Ask a question, receive an answer, close the tab. It feels like a public utility, something that simply exists to make life easier. But economically, search has always served a much larger purpose. The search engine is not the final product. It's the mechanism that produces something far more valuable. Every time you type a query into Google, you leave behind more than words. You reveal your attention, your interests, your priorities. Most importantly, you reveal your intent. And intent is one of the most valuable commodities in the modern economy. Consider the difference between two searches. Someone types, weather tomorrow. Another person searches, best mortgage rates. Both are using the same search box. Both receive a list of links. Yet those two searches are worlds apart in economic value. The first reflects curiosity. The second signals a potential financial decision worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Banks know that a person comparing mortgage rates could become a customer within days. For them, appearing at precisely that moment isn't just useful. It's incredibly profitable. That single search carries information no survey, billboard, or television commercial could reliably provide. It captures intent in real time. This is what makes search fundamentally different from traditional advertising. A television commercial interrupts whatever you're watching and hopes you're interested. A billboard stands beside the road and hopes you're paying attention. Most advertising has always relied on probability. Google reversed that logic. Instead of guessing what people might want, it waited until they voluntarily declared it. That subtle shift changed everything. Advertisers aren't really paying for keywords. They aren't paying for the words mortgage, insurance, or running shoes. They're paying for the opportunity to reach someone at the exact moment those words reveal a meaningful intention. The keyword is simply the doorway. The real product is the person standing behind it, ready to make a decision. This is why search became so powerful. It transformed billions of everyday questions into economic signals. A student researching universities, a family planning a vacation, an entrepreneur looking for accounting software, or a patient searching for a dentist, all are broadcasting valuable information about what they may do next. Search reveals what people want before they act. That insight quietly transformed Google into the world's largest marketplace for intent, where businesses compete not for attention alone, but for the chance to meet human decisions at the very instant they begin. And once intent became a market, an entirely new economic machine had to be built to price it, one that would turn a fraction of a second into billions of dollars every single day. The moment you press enter, it feels as though Google simply scans the internet and returns a list of results. From the user's perspective, the process is almost effortless. A page loads in less than a second, and life moves on. But behind that single click, an invisible market suddenly comes to life. Imagine searching for running shoes. Before the results fully appear, dozens, sometimes hundreds, of companies may already be competing for your attention. Global brands, local retailers, sports stores, and online marketplaces all recognize the same signal. Someone is actively looking to buy. Google doesn't manually decide which advertisement appears first. Instead, it launches an automated auction, not once every hour, not once every minute. Every single search triggers its own auction, completed in mere milliseconds. Each advertiser enters with a maximum bid, the highest amount they're willing to pay if someone clicks their advertisement. At first glance, it sounds like the deepest pockets should always win. But that's not how Google's marketplace works. Winning depends on far more than money. Google also measures what it calls quality score, an estimate of how useful and relevant an advertisement is to the person searching. Does the ad closely match the query? Is the landing page genuinely helpful? Are users likely to click because the result solves their problem rather than simply shouting the loudest? These factors combine with an advertiser's bid to produce something known as ad rank. And that single calculation determines who appears first. The result is surprisingly elegant. An advertiser offering a lower bid can outrank a competitor willing to spend more if Google believes the experience will be better for the user. In other words, relevance becomes part of the price. That design isn't accidental. It's economics. If the highest bidder always won, search results would gradually become less useful. Users would lose trust, search less often, and the entire marketplace would shrink. By rewarding quality alongside price, Google protects the experience that keeps billions of people coming back every day. It's a balancing act between user satisfaction and commercial competition, where both sides ultimately reinforce each other. Now multiply that single auction by billions of searches happening across every country, language, and industry. Every query becomes a fresh marketplace. Every search creates new competition. Every fraction of a second produces another winner, another price, another opportunity. Most people never notice, because the process is invisible. They see a search engine. Google sees millions of buyers and sellers meeting in real time, with prices determined by one of the fastest auction systems ever built. And as extraordinary as those auctions are, they represent only one layer of Google's economic machine. The real advantage emerged after Google realized it could learn from every auction, every click, and every decision, making the system smarter with each passing day. At first glance, Google's incentives seem obvious. More advertisements should mean more revenue. Charge advertisers as much as possible, fill every search page with sponsored links, and maximize short-term profit. Yet that isn't what happens. In many cases, Google deliberately leaves advertising space empty. It also rejects ads that fail to meet its quality standards, even when advertisers are willing to pay more. On the surface, that seems almost irrational. Why would a company voluntarily walk away from money? Because Google understands something far more valuable than a single click: trust. Every search begins with a simple expectation. Users believe the best answer will appear near the top of the page. The moment that confidence starts to fade, people change their behavior. They search less, spend less time on the platform, or look elsewhere for answers. When trust declines, so does the flow of searches that powers Google's entire economic engine. That makes search quality more than a technical challenge. It becomes a financial necessity. This is why relevance matters so much. Google's objective is not simply to show an advertisement. It is to show the right advertisement at the right moment, while ensuring that the surrounding results remain genuinely useful. If users consistently find what they need, they return tomorrow, and the day after that. The alternative is surprisingly expensive. If Google prioritized the highest-paying ads, but frustrated users would gradually lose confidence, reducing the number of searches over months and years. A small boost in short-term revenue could quietly erode the foundation of a business worth hundreds of billions. So Google occasionally earns less in order to earn far more. It sacrifices immediate income to protect the habit that makes the entire marketplace possible. In economic terms, today's trust is an investment in tomorrow's cash flow. That is why Google's greatest asset isn't its algorithms, its servers, or even its advertisements. It's the expectation that the next search will still deliver the best answer. And once that trust was firmly established, Google discovered an even greater advantage, one that no competitor could easily replicate, no matter how much money they were willing to spend. Once Google's search engine became the preferred choice for millions of people, something remarkable began to happen. Every new user made the system more valuable, not just for themselves, but for everyone else. Each search generated fresh data. Every click, every skipped result, every refined query, and every successful answer became another signal that helped Google understand what people actually wanted. Those signals fed back into its algorithms, improving future search results with every passing day. Better results attracted more users. More users produced more data. More data improved the algorithms. And improved algorithms attracted even more users. It was a feedback loop that became stronger every time someone searched. But the cycle didn't stop there. As Google's audience expanded, advertisers naturally followed. More businesses competing for attention meant higher advertising revenue. Instead of simply distributing those profits to shareholders, Google reinvested enormous sums back into the very system that created them. Billions of dollars flowed into massive data centers, capable of processing unimaginable volumes of information. Its web crawlers indexed an ever-growing internet. New infrastructure reduced search times by fractions of a second. Investments in artificial intelligence, language models, and ranking systems made search increasingly accurate, even as the web became exponentially more complex. This is where economies of scale began to work in Google's favor. The larger the platform became, the cheaper and more efficient it was to improve each individual search. Fixed investments in infrastructure could be spread across billions of daily queries, creating efficiencies that smaller competitors simply couldn't match. At the same time, powerful network effects reinforced the cycle. More users attracted more advertisers. More advertisers generated more revenue. More revenue funded better technology, which attracted even more users. That's why building another search engine was never enough.